having worked for George Balanchine, one of the greatest choreographers in history, and a great musician, it was always interesting in terms of the music he would use. And for instance, Stravinsky. If you listen to Stravinsky, you say to yourself, how do you dance to that stuff? You can't even hear it. And the music is so complicated. It changes all the time. And Stravinsky was the guy who changed his art form. George Balanchine was the guy who changed his art form. And it was fascinating because every time you passed his room when you were in the theater, you heard him taking apart orchestrations, note by note. And it took him 2-3 years to study a score. But he knew it by the time he was ready to choreograph to it intimately. So it all fit. And as strange as it sounded, it worked. And you began, as you were, as he was choreographing, you began to see what your character was. And you began to develop and allow that characterization to the point where it became so comfortable to you that it was like Balanchine's mind. And he would say, well, you know, I hear it and I see it. And I would say, oh my God, what a mind he had. And what would come out of that mind was startling. So I had a different kind of approach because obviously Balanchine was choosing the music. But whatever he was doing, he would study for 2-3 years. So he knew it. And as he was choreographing, he'd suddenly stop and go and look at the score. And while he was looking at the score, the room was pandemonium. And suddenly he would stop and say, okay, clap his hands, and everything settled down. And off we went. And incredible stuff just came out of him. So I had a different kind of approach to all of those things. And as time was going by, he was running out of Stravinsky stuff. And he got into all kinds of other very interesting choreographers. And I started fooling around with choreographing. And I decided I was going to use a work that he had previously choreographed to. And it turned out that it was the best thing I had ever done. And one day, if we have a moment, I'll get Linda to pull it out of the closet and show it to you. And it makes sense, and it's structured, and it's and it's reflective of the music. And that, of course, was what Balanchine was so noted for. And, most people will follow what had been previously choreographed to. Tchaikovsky was a big deal, but major previous century and a half stuff was always available. But it gave me a whole other view of what you could dance to. But it also gave my ear a view. So what I was hearing was hearing what Balanchine was hearing, but seeing at the same time. So for me, it was an incredible opening. And as I said to you, one day I'll ask Linda to pull it out and take a look at it and just, see what you think of it. Stravinsky was always the most complicated until Balanchine came upon a piece of music, and we used to call it cement music. And I couldn't hear any of it, and I never did. And fortunately, I never had to dance it. The piece I choreographed to was a piece that Balanchine had done, but I couldn't just copy him. But it was something that I felt comfortable doing. And as I said, I will at one point show it to you. As I began to do it, and I saw it work out, I watched the dancers, and I watched their faces, and they were suddenly comfortable. They could understand what was going on and why I was doing it. So that's about it for me.